Today I wanted to tell you guys about a FromSoft game that I think has been overlooked for far too long. But Skux! There is no FromSoft game that's been overlooked. You, good sir, are wrong. They make more than just Souls-like games. They also make some of the best mecha action games there ever was. I see that disbelief in your eyes. Well, if you don't believe me, check this out. The greatness you just witnessed, like it said at the very end, was Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon. This is the 6th entry in a long series of Armored Core games that FromSoft originally started making. And I would be lying my butt off if I didn't say how disappointed I was when they announced that they were making a mecha action game instead of another Souls-like game. But being the FromSoft groupie that I was, I decided to get Armored Core 6 and just see how it went. And oh boy, these guys can cook with any fucking game that they make. So let's get into the nitty gritty of why Armored Core 6 is a game that I think you might love. And right off the bat, let's talk about this surprisingly deep story. At the beginning of the game, you're sent to a planet called Rubicon to essentially try and find this fuel source called coral. You play as an augmented human who is essentially a cyborg that just listens to orders given to him by whoever he's working with. And while you might think this is a boring, generic story, I want to let you know, as you get deeper into the story, you start to realize just how different each of the factions is and how every character has their own reason for being on Rubicon and their own reason for wanting to either take the coral and use it as a fuel source or destroy it. And so as you go through the story, you'll start leaning more towards specific factions and wanting to help them more, while also wanting to sabotage and hurt the other factions. And one of the highlights of the story is definitely the voice acting of a lot of these characters, because each faction has their own specific type of character that lives within that company. For example, the Vespers are just kind of assholes that have a overall plan in mind that they don't let anyone else know besides themselves, and they're willing to throw you to the dogs if you're not going to listen to what they're going to do. And then on the complete opposite side, you have the Rubicon Liberation Front, which is just the people who will guilt trip you and be like, why are you attacking us? We just live here on this planet. Why are you doing this? And so they are the good guys in this story, because they're just people who are trying to live their lives, but they're getting effed over by the companies that are here trying to take the coral. And I gotta say, all of the characters in this game are very convincing because the actors did an amazing job voicing them. But I do gotta say, the delivery on some of this voice actor lines when it comes to the dialogue, not in the missions but outside of the missions, it is very bland in some of the instances. And the reason I say that is because in the menus, when you're siphoning through these messages, you have to hit this interact button to have them say the next line of dialogue. And I feel like there's this instance where they're hesitating to say the next line, and you're just sitting there waiting for them to just continue what they're saying. And it kind of rubs me the wrong way at times, especially once you're start getting invested in the story and you're really listening to the dialogue. And so that's definitely a con that I would say when it comes to the story. But all in all, I was genuinely surprised at how deep and how fun this story was to be a part of and unravel. So now that you know that the story is great, let's talk about how the rest of this game plays out. So when you're not in a mission, you're in your garage. From here, you're able to jump off to the various different points of this game, such as choosing the next mission. For some reason, they call them sorties, and I have no freaking clue why they do that. And then you have the option to design your own AC. And when I say design your own AC, I literally mean as much. You can make whatever type of AC that you want in this game, and it is viable for whatever thing you're doing with the PvE content of this game. And so if you want to literally build a tank that just has all this firepower to just throw at your enemies, go ahead. If you want want to create an AC that lets you fly for extended periods of time, you can do that. If you want to be like me, you can build this little tiny nimble AC that has a shotgun and a sword and just gets in and out of combat quickly and just looks like a fucking badass. You can do that. You can be just like me if you want to. And the customization doesn't end at just changing the different parts on your AC. You can also go in and update all of the different colors on the lights, on your AC's arm. You can add patterns. You can add all sorts of things to really make this like a personal AC that is just yours, that's very unique to who you are and the type of gamer that you play as. If you're enjoying this content so far, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can see more just like it. Let's get back to the video. And now this leads us into the most important part of this video. Talking about the part of this game that's going to literally grab you, stranglehold you, and keep you engaged with this game for the whole rest of its runtime. And that, my friends, is the combat. The combat in this game is highly explosive and done in spurts of just crazy energy. But within that pattern of crazy energy, FromSoft has somehow managed to make it so that all of their lessons learned in their games that they've made up to that point, Dark Souls and Elden Ring, Sekiro, they've taken those lessons and really married it to this like high energy, high octane combat. And to describe the feeling that you get as you're going throughout this combat and doing your dodges, moving left and right, is it feels like you're part of an anime fight, like one of those high quality anime fights where you're just dodging, weaving, avoiding enemy attacks, and then doing your own attacks and doing all that fun stuff. And it just ends up being this like really visceral moment for you where you're like, holy crap, that felt awesome. I feel so cool. Let's get some more. And this makes for a fantasy where you're an armored core that's just going around literally destroying everything. But then you come across these mini bosses and bosses that just change up the way that you have to play the game. And I feel like that's such a fresh thing to have in a game like this where you're literally a god essentially, and then you just get humbled hardcore by these bosses. And I think that this is a really smart thing for them to do because you get that feeling of being a badass AC that just can destroy everything, but then all of a sudden you're playing a Dark Souls game when you're fighting these bosses, and so you then get the satisfaction of overcoming that challenge that really pushed you to your limits and taught you how to master this game and all the mechanics that you specifically have for the AC that you built. And I gotta say, the boss fights in this game, like I mentioned, they're humbling moments for you, but also they are some of the most cinematic shit that you've ever seen in your entire life as a gamer. So now we reach the end of the video and answer the question, is this game for you? If you're looking for a game that just has high octane combat that makes you feel like you're part of an anime, I would 100,000% recommend this game to you. And same goes for those who like Souls-like games and also games that have high octane combat. I just think that this melds the two of them together so well that both of those type of gamers would like this game. But one thing I do want to point out is even though this game came out in 2023, it's a FromSoft game, and we know for a fact that those games rarely go on sale. And so if you really are trying to pinch some pennies, I would wait for a sale to get this one because it's going to end up being around 35 bucks for the on sale, but if you want to buy it right now, this is a $60 game. And I just want to let you guys know, I love this game. This is one of my hands down favorite games that has ever been made ever. And the reason I know that is because I bought this game way back in 2023 and I played it, I beat it like 3 times because that's what you need to do in order to get the whole story. But the thing is when I come back and play a game and I can enjoy it as much, if not more than the first time I played it, that's just something special to me, because there's very little games out there these days that really just grab you and hold on to you and then give you the same satisfaction the first time through as every subsequent time through. And so with that, I hope you end up buying this game, and I see you out there on Rubicon.